Hi, everybody. Mr. Johnson here, and we are talking about a new episode of the Artist Gallery. So make sure that you have your artist images and your sketchbook ready so that we can dive right in to talk about this week's artist. So if you have all those things, come and join us. Today's artist is a really cool, fairly local artist for us named Hamilton Glass. So he's the artist. You should have those images out, and we will be cutting and pasting them into our sketchbook. Now remember, we should also be taking the notes that appear in the white boxes on the screen as I move through each of the slides. So I will be talking a little bit about his background, and then we'll move on to look at all of his images, so you can join us in doing that. I love his art. I think he's really, really cool. So hopefully you can join us. Remember, my students, right, we can be using the backs of our sketchbook pages for these to make sure that you have enough room. So Hamilton Glass is a street artist, and we'll talk about his particular style in just a minute. He was born on May 27th, 1982 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So fairly local artist, which is pretty cool. I don't know if any of you share the May 27th birthday, if you're a birthday buddy with Hamilton Glass, but that's when he was born. He's obviously still alive and working right now, fairly young guy. And his artworks connect work and community. And we'll talk about that in a second. His artwork connects with his community. So he's best known for huge murals. He does street art, which means that a lot of what he paints are large murals on the outsides of buildings in Pennsylvania, and a lot in where he currently lives in Richmond, Virginia. So here's the beginning of our information about Hamilton Glass. His career as an artist stems from his architecture and design background. In 2005, he got his bachelor's degree in architecture from Hampton University. Despite working in the architecture field for 7 years, his passion for public art pushed him to start a career as an artist. Public art has always been a big influence and inspiration of his because of its power to influence and inspire the surrounding community. With every project he's given to create, a message is built in that connects the work to the community in which it lives. His work is usually distinguished by his use of architectural elements and bright, vivid colors and sharp lines. The colors and his unpredictable line work are used to convey a certain energy and movement with each piece. And he is currently married, and he and his wife have 2 children. So let's take a look at this first artwork. This is not one that you have. I just think it's really cool. So some of his works that we'll look at, some of his most popular and most widely recognized works are his street murals that he's painted, but this one is not. This is, one of his actual, painted pieces done with acrylic paint and ink called Hope in Evolution. And I think this is a great example of Hamilton Glass's art style because it combines this incredibly realistic portrait with this very bold and graphic kind of architectural element. So you see around on the bottom right side, there's this portrait, right, of this young figure done just in black and white and shades of gray, but very realistic, an incredibly beautiful style for painting the facial features and blending those skin tones. Absolutely beautiful the way the light hits off of the face. And that contrasts really well with the stark kind of illustration look of the rest of his piece with these bold blues and yellows and ambers. And then all these black and white lines that gives it kind of a sci-fi Art Deco feel in the design work on the left side and the top. I think it's really, really cool. So again, we see a lot of that in Hamilton Glass's work. So the first piece you should add to your sketchbook, if you're one of my students, is called From Above. And this was painted in 2007. And like the piece before this, is an acrylic painting mixed with ink. I think this is really cool. It shows this young child who's down there on the bottom right side, with what appears to be carrying this, a boombox speaker, right? This really cool speaker, and then all these other kind of speaker images piling up on top of it. Looks like a big, huge kind of pile, but they're not. They're not stacked on like the kids carrying all of them. I don't think it's supposed to be but it's showing all of these kind of images of music here, which I think is really cool. Then all these cords with the plugs kind of dangling out. And then you have this brightly splattered background with these pinks and oranges and reds. So it's, again, a cool mix of black and white with gray and color, realistic elements, and then these big kind of bold outline. I just think it's really, really cool. I'm not sure what the meaning of this pieces, and actually that's the same for most of Hamilton Glass's artwork, because he's still a young contemporary artist. A lot of his pieces he's released out there. He has a really cool website where I got most of this information from, but he doesn't really say what each of the pieces is about. So that's up for us as the viewer to interpret that in our own way, which I think is really cool and really kind of interesting. So this is one of the examples of his large murals. This is called Richmond Cycle Corp. Or Corporation from 2018, a large-scale mural here. And you can see, again, like we saw in that first painting, this is just a much larger scale, that it incorporates these realistic portraits. Many of the portraits he paints are African-American figures, but these very realistic portraits combined with this kind of bold, graphic, bright colored style. So you can see the three realistic faces here, and then this hand kind of drawing in these elements, which I think is really cool. And then all these bright, colorful elements in the background. The word think is on there 3 times, which, once with each face, which is really cool. Hamilton Glass is part of a group called Mending Walls, and Mending Walls RVA, or the Richmond, Virginia, Mending Walls RVA, and it's part of a group of mural artists that mean to bring art to the community in Richmond, Virginia, or to that, the local area. And their mission is to bring artists of different cultural backgrounds together to create art that inspires empathy and connection. I think that's really cool. So not only does he do these paintings, but he's part of this pardon me, part of this Mending Walls group that does a lot of murals like this in the area. So let's listen to what he has to say about his own art in this short but I think very powerful piece. If it plays. Okay, third time's a charm.
One of my really good favorite painters, Ernie Barnes, right? I can remember reading about him a long time ago, and he was visiting the North Carolina Museum of Arts, and which was recently desegregated, and he was looking for, they were on a field trip, and he was looking for artists that looked like him, and they responded to him with, "Your people don't express themselves like this." I can remember growing up, just sitting in the classroom and knowing that, wait, 10 years ago was different than now. And I can remember going to my grandfather and asking him that, and my grandmother going and pulling out pictures of a different time, which was honestly crazy. I don't think most people realize how far we've come in such a short amount of time. I've noticed over the course of time that I do put a lot of African Americans in my work, and I think that it's because it's a product of my environment. I mean, everyone, that's how they express themselves, was music, visual art, dance. It's you are a product. You put out the product of what you've experienced. I think that we're becoming comfortable, so comfortable in our settings that we aren't remembering that it was hard for us to be where we are now. Art is one of those things that basically, honestly, can help you survive. It's in its purest form. It's like meditation. It's releasing what you have to contribute to the world out.
I think it's really important anytime you can hear about the artist's perspective from the artists themselves. I think it's always going to be better than learning about it through somebody else. So hearing Hamilton Glass talk about his experiences with art, why he creates what he does, and what he's hoping to do with it, I think is so important. Because, you don't get that with a lot of the older artists, right? But it's something we can get now. So the next piece for you to include in your sketchbook is called Knowledge is Key, and is this acrylic and ink piece here by Hamilton Glass. You can see it right on the screen. Like the paintings before, it combines realistic portraits with abstract design elements, often influenced by architecture. But again, the faces here of these two young African-American boys are painted in black and white and shades of gray. Again, very realistically, the way the beautiful light, right, is hitting them on the sides of their faces, creating these very interesting shadows, is exquisitely rendered. And then in the background, you have these bold patterns with oranges and yellows, pinks, purples, blues, greens, right? And then this bold black and white kind of stripes are really, really cool. And then the concept here, right, knowledge is key, I think is shown in a really interesting way where, that idea of knowledge being that light bulb that appears over your head when you get a good idea. Well, here that light bulb is appearing over the heads of these young boys, but there's a literal key inside the light bulb. That is what's going to help me be successful, right? Knowledge is key. I think that's really cool. So hopefully you enjoy this piece. I think that's such a brilliant idea with that painting. Another one that you do not need to include, but one that I just think is really cool, is called Three Kings. This painting from 2007 in acrylic and ink. So here it is again, three young African-American boys sitting on top of this, huge speaker, and then all of these smaller speakers down at the bottom. Isn't that really cool? Like they're sitting up here on top of this, right? About royalty and music and life and that life energy. I think that's really cool. Hamilton Glass was asked, what does art mean to you? And he said, quote, "Art to me is life. I try to use art to communicate the ideas that I don't feel I have words to articulate about my surroundings." I think that's really cool, right? So the way that he can't necessarily describe something in words, he uses art to do that. I think that's really, really beautiful. So here's your Hamilton Glass journal prompt for my students. What subject do you think would make for a good local mural, and where would you put it? But Hamilton Glass works a lot in both Philadelphia and Virginia, creating these incredible murals about the community in which he lives, or sometimes they have a social message, and they are brightly colored, and they're these beautiful art pieces, but they have a connection to the community in which he creates them. That's really the purpose for his art. So let me know in the text box when you upload this page to the assignment on Google Classroom, what subject do you think would make for a good local mural, and where would you put it? So let me know what you think. I hope you enjoy Hamilton Glass's artwork. I think his style is really beautiful, very different, very unique, but exquisitely done. He's an incredible technical artist. If you liked his work, feel free to check him out online. He has tons of other murals and paintings, right, that you can check out and hopefully you enjoy. So feel free to look him up, and I hope you enjoyed him. If you have questions, please let me know.